So I think you already know Susant Mallick. I'm the founder and CEO of CloudHub. So I didn't have that slide, but I can just talk about what CloudHub is doing today. So we are a AI startup companies focusing on building products and technologies to transform digital health and clinical trials. Okay. And so that means we are using agentic AIs and some of these smart technologies, the way we diagnose, the way we treat people, and then the way we engage people. Yeah. So we have offices in Netherlands, in Germany, London, and also in India. So we have like I'm also Amazon, and we have Microsoft, Accenture guys, come together to build these companies. So okay, so the pharma companies right now are the inflection of the clinical trials. So the clinical trials, you can see, faces a critical inflection point. Obviously, the traditional clinical trials methodologies, are no longer sustainable, particularly in the area of digital technologies. So you need speed, you need precision, and also you need patient safety or patient centricity or patient engagement to it. So I think Dr. Frank already talked about it's just time and cost. We already know some of these like more than 2 billion or so, and takes 10 to 15 years. Sometimes 80% of the clinical trials, they miss the milestones, they don't go through the last stage, and 90% of the collected clinical data remains unused, right? And last but not the least is limited reach, right? That means the centralized site models that restrict diversity and exclude patients, right, unable to travel. So that's the reason, right? The future of the trials is not about just sites. I think, someone talk about the underutilized resource that is patients. So you need to see how you can engage patients more effectively. And so it's about now patient, the data, and then intelligence you want to put forward to transform your clinical trials. Yeah, and already you guys know. So that means AI is now redefining, from static processes to intelligent process. So there is a transformation happening across the industries, both from discovery to preclinical to clinical, even if to the drug safety and the regulatory submissions. And at CloudHub, right, as I said, we are a technology company. Obviously, we are not in a healthcare or pharma companies, but we are helping customers, how we can bring technology to transform or build a static, move from static process to intelligent and decentralized platforms, right? So the one is, when I talk about the transformation in the clinical trials. So, any case, like, when you create, clinical protocols, how much time it takes? Close to maybe 4 to 6 months or more than that, right? But now think about how AI can do it, right? And we are helping customers where we are taking their historical clinical protocol documents, ECRF documents, and all that, and with the help of now our agentic AI models, we're able to reduce that time frame and able to create the first draft clinical protocol document in just few days. Right, and then obviously it takes effort from someone to review, what I call human in the loop, right, and so forth. And then the second is the patient companion. So once you have now, your protocol is approved, but now you want to do the patient recruitment, you want to conduct clinical trials, to monitor your site risk and so on and so forth. And I talk about the decentralized clinical trials is, at the speed where you need to have different way of now helping patients to be at their home, right? What I call from clinic to couch, right? So that means they don't need to travel to the clinic sites every time or for every visit. But hey, how we can provide some of the technologies so that they can be at their home. For example, like if I have questions, maybe I have a health companion app where I can ask questions. Maybe, for example, you are also providing some of these, digital technology like stethoscope, for example. Like if there is a, lung diseases, or respiratory disease patients. So, that's, we have integrated now digital stethoscope where you will be able to integrate that information, collect the sounds of your heart or your lungs, and put it through AI model, and AI model will talk about now, okay, whether somebody has real problem in the respiratory systems or in the heart system or not, right? And then similarly, we have also the AI model which can now predict which sites or if there is any kind of patient sentiments getting changed, because that means you should be able to now capture the interaction between the patient and also the investigator and see how the patient is feeling, what's his or her confidence level, and so on and so forth. And then you'll be able to also predict which site is going to be at risk, right? What about the recruitment of the patients? All that now is kind of predictive models being integrated as part of the platform, right? And then the last but not the least is how you can be able to also integrate some of these intelligent systems which can connect to your clinical data and able to give some of these more insights. Like that's the reason we have that Thinkly platform where it's kind of a agentic AI platform. You don't need to bring, I don't know if you guys from IT background a little bit, all this, you have to bring all the data into a central platform, you perform your ETLs, then you do the data modeling, and then you build, all these Power BI or Tableau and all that reports. It takes ages because I have seen people, I have already worked with, top 50 pharma customers for last 15 years. They spend millions of dollars and it takes years to complete that kind of it. But now, with our platform, you can able to just connect, whether it's your EDC or CTMS or any kind of Argus safety systems, the data doesn't travel beyond your network, right? So that means we have an intelligent AI models which can just connect to your data and identify how the data is being used. And now you can simply go and say, okay, hey, I need to get this particular clinical site data, like how many patients being recruited, what the risk, so on and so forth. You simply ask the questions, okay? Just a pure text. And now system will understand it and convert that into a dynamic SQL and go and get the data from your systems and give that to the generative AI and just contextualize the way you ask the questions. You can also create graphs. You don't need to have all that pre-configured graphs before. On the fly, you will be able to also create those kind of graphs. Yeah. So maybe before we get into this, maybe I would like to just maybe first show the videos. Maybe if you can help.
The pharmaceutical industry is
experiencing
a pivotal moment of transformation. Traditional, site-bound clinical trials can't keep pace with market demands for speed, precision, and patient-centric delivery. CloudHub is transforming the clinical development life cycle, turning disconnected, static processes into integrated, intelligent systems. Our AI-driven models reduce protocol design time from months to weeks, ensuring smarter, data-validated decisions from day one. With Medical AI Companion, trials move from clinic to couch. We enable secure remote diagnostics, continuous engagement, and immediate response to patient needs, improving retention, diversity, and data quality at scale. In oncology, AI triages candidates in real time. Diagnostics are managed remotely, and patient engagement is seamless. The result: recruitment up to 2x faster, 30% cost reduction in operational overhead, regulatory submissions achieved weeks earlier. Predictive monitoring mitigates risk before it impacts timelines, driving safety, compliance, and investor confidence simultaneously. For decision makers, the value is clear: shorter molecule to market timelines, increased ROI and shareholder value, stronger competitive positioning in an evolving regulatory landscape. CloudHub is not just improving trials, we are redesigning the business model of clinical development. AI, decentralization, and continuous intelligence create a direct line between molecule, innovation, and market success. CloudHub, accelerating science, delivering value.
Okay, so what you have seen now. I think you didn't. So can you put, okay.
The pharma.
No, sorry. Yeah, can you put here? Okay, good. Okay, so just before we get into, right, so now I talk about, right, some of the slides I think I gave, but they couldn't put it there on the last moment. So the first thing is I talk about, right, how you can do the diagnosis, right? So today, let's say we are already working with a couple of medical colleges in terms of lung cancer. So the first step is when any patient comes in, so we have digital stethoscope, integrated to our system. So it will capture the sound of the lungs, and then our AI model will take it and analyze and give you that, okay, if there is any kind of issues, right, in terms of the lung. Because, again, we already worked with a couple of, respiratory doctors and all that, right, pulmonologists, right, before we get the model correct. So now, it will be able to detect, whether somebody has pneumonias or the symptom of cancers and all that. That's the first step. Obviously, that's not the confirm. And now, if there is any problem, now there is a workflow. The system will now tell you that, okay, hey, looks like, there is a problem, hey, maybe you should go for, again, we validate that with the doctor, and then workflow also gives you that, okay, maybe the next step is you should go for either CT scan or X-rays, right? And then with the doctor prescription, let's say somebody goes through that, CT scan, and now the image, what we get from the DICOM format, we'll upload that, and then model also able to detect and give you the exact precision, if there is a benign or is a malignant case, and if it's malignant, why? Because, we have now trained thousands of images to capture such kind of disease, and it will demark and give you the pointers of why we are thinking it's a malignant case, right? And once we get that confirmation, next is, obviously, any kind of cancer disease, obviously they have to go to the tissue analysis and all that. So we get some kind of histopathological reports or images, again, from the doctor. And again, the doctor can upload those images to the AI model, and AI model also able to now predict that, okay, if there is any kind of, malignant case and why, again, it gives all the descriptions, plus it also gives the what kind of grade it is, right, what stage. So all that is now being done through the platform itself. Right, that's number one. And number two, as I talk about, I already talk about the risk-based monitoring. So we have also the systems which can take the data, and now you can be able to configure your risk-based monitoring solutions within days, right? Because I remember when I was with Cognizant, we were trying to build something called smart risk-based monitoring solutions. Later on stage, it was being done by Transcelerate, which is, you might be knowing, Transcelerate is the conglomeration of different pharma companies coming together and building common technologies. I know it took almost 2 to 3 years to build such kind of systems, right? Because it was so much complex. But now, with help of now agentic AIs and evolution of Gen AI, you will be able to do that within weeks. Okay, and that's why we are trying to get some kind of POCs with the customers. So now so how we can now move from then smart trials, then the continuous care and predictive health. So it's not about just the clinical trials. How we can also take some of this digital technology beyond the clinical trials and build a continuous care, and also understand the patient's engagement, their sentiments, how effective, what's their feeling. So that means we need to also have a engagement platform for the patients. And again, that health trial companion I talk about, for example, okay, hey, I have my second visit in my clinical trials, I don't know, what, where to go and who to contact. So all that's now also being drawn by the trial companion today. Or if they have any questions, because sometimes, when they go to think about, cancer patients, if they want to go to the doctor, sometimes they're scared to ask certain questions. So that's the reason then we have this trial companion where they will be able to ask those questions, right, and get that response. And again, those questions are being directed to now the site investigators, and then site investigator can look at those questions and they can address, from their side also, even if the customers or patient doesn't ask all that questions. So that's now possible, right? So, and then what I call that is basically LLM co-pilots. It's kind of intelligent assistants for investigators, for the patients, and also for the site coordinators. So you can be able to use that kind of what I call one UI or one platform, which can cater to the different demands of your actors like your patients, your investigators, and your site coordinators. And then second is the real world data pipeline. So again, these are some possibilities. We didn't capture all that. For example, when you want to do the patient recruitment. So patient recruitment is one of the biggest challenge today, right? To understand what kind of patients we need to recruit for our clinical trials. Where they exist, and many often they go to the different agencies and takes times. But now if you have EWR, real world evidence data, and RWD and EMR systems, you can integrate and you can then find out what are the hotspots, right? For example, I want to do a lung cancer clinical trials, where I can find such kind of patients, what is the ethnic group, how I want to find diversity. So the AI tools now able to give those aspects to you when you are doing your clinical trial design, right? And then the multimodal AI fusion, that means advanced algorithms. It can integrate text, the voice, and medical imaging, genomics, and biomarker, for example, right? So biomarker, I think you already talked about, Dr. Frank, right? So that's also possible. And last but not the least is what I call digital twin, right? So these are virtual patient cohorts, how we can simulate the clinical trials in the digital twin environment, in kind of silico protocols before it enroll a single participants, or it can reduce your design risk and optimize the endpoints. Yeah, so that means, so the future really require, the clinical research collaboration. So that means we are not just kind of a technology company, but we are kind of strategic innovation partner for you guys, right? If you want to transform your clinical trials or your drug safety or regulatory submissions. So we have that experience in the technology where we can help, what I call a guided support from point A to point B, both in terms of the process, in terms of the technology, and also in my past life, I was managing also the entire security, compliance, and validation for healthcare companies like Amazon and others, where I help many customers. So think about when you qualify things, you talk about the qualification and validation and all that. So when you build such kind of platforms, for example, AI platforms or the cloud platforms, when we are migrating, so it takes months to perform all your IQ documentations, OQ documentation, PQ documentation, and then create execute them, create and summarize and get it approved. Almost takes 6 months or more than that. Now, since technology evolving, the regulations and all that, and then moving into CSA, what I call computer system assurance instead of computer system validation. So we also help customers in terms of reducing that cycle time, your qualification and validation, from months to days. So entire thing can be just automated. You can integrate your DevOps pipeline or DevSecOps pipeline, where everything can be step by step without any kind of human interventions. So what you just need to do is, once each stage IQ is done, for example, somebody just need to review the documents. Okay, you are not going to take any more take the screenshots. I don't know if you guys ever involved. You have to take the screenshot and put it in the document, take the printout, do the blue ink signatures and all that. It's really not required anymore, right? And then build at for scale. That means the architecture what we have, the platform what I have shown, right? That can support not only just 100 patients, but also it can be able to support more than 1 million without any kind of re-engineering or any kind of modifications or changes to the platform. That means it's a future-proof infrastructure and the platform which you can do, right? So then the ready for tomorrow, that means we can also build any kind of AI native design, regulatory compliance, and patient-first privacy principles, so that we can integrate that at every layer of our solutions. So again, if you are thinking about how we can build some of these, from prototype to production. For example, like, everyone wants to join the bandwagon of AIs because everyone wants to do some kind of pilot or the proof of concept, but they always remain in that kind of proof of concept because, they don't have expertise to move and scale and put it in the productions. And that's where we can also co-develop some of these AI models and help you to move the needle from POC to productions to scale, right? And then, any kind of regulatory collaborations or the validation you require. So we also help, the companies in doing that. Yeah, so that means if you are really want to now transform your clinical trials or your clinical research, our expert teams and our best of the breed, the platforms which can help you to move the needles. Again, we are already helping with a couple of customers I cannot name here, and a couple of medical research institutes as well here, so in Netherlands as well as in India and other parts of the world, where, a couple of these case studies, what I talk about, so they are in different stage of this, right? And I think I also talk about, we are helping couple of clinics back in India, right? So where, for example, I talk about, right, my entire family is in the dermatology. I have like 2 doctors in my family, including my wife also. So I come from the medical background. You know how the tough will be. That's the reason, I'm into this business. I said, okay, although I'm an engineer by professions, but I said, okay, since I'm married to a doctor, so I went to have something meaningful, right? So that's the reason we are building now also, this kind of skin AI solutions, right? So where I talk about you will be able to detect 60 plus skin conditions. We just take the simple image of your skin conditions, and now it will be able to detect, whether it's eczema or any acne or psoriasis or, melanoma or melasma, or if you have pigmentations and all that. So there are few clinics already using our platform, and the kind of the patient satisfaction and the number of patients they're getting is enormous. So and that's just kind of the starting point, what I call, right? The sky is the limit, and that's how we are now helping different companies shaping their landscape, both in the health and also in the pharma areas. Yeah. So if you have any questions, I know I have finished before 5 minutes, but I want to just give back if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them. And you can just connect me here, right, in case you have any questions or if you have require any kind of collaboration.